Good evening and welcome to Legal Tech Live. I'm your host, Nick Rishwain. I'm here with my guest, Karen Renee. Karen is the CEO and co-founder of eCourtReporters. And a little bit about our president and founder, CEO and founder. Karen owns Milwaukee Court Reporters and actively provides court reporting services. Graduated 2008 cum laude from Alfred State College, New York. With your associate's degree. You were awarded Innovator of the Year from the State Bar of Wisconsin for innovation use of technology from the National Court Reporters Association and Bright New Idea Award from the Governor's Business Plan Contest. Previous business ownership includes House of Style, Creative Cakes, and Renee Reporting. So you've been an entrepreneur most of your life, it seems, Karen. And now it's legal tech. I know there's Harley riding involved in your life. We will get to that. Karen is with us. This is our wrapping up. Not that this is the last female founder, the interview that we're going to have, but this is us wrapping up. I think 8 or 9 consecutive for the female founder series that was necessary after we saw a heavily male dominated schedule early in the spring and summer. So thank you for joining for this, Karen. I know you've been a member of the Facebook legal tech community for a while. Welcome to the show. Tell us about, I mean, this is incredible experience as an entrepreneur. Quite a variety. And when did you get into court reporting? And then when did you decide I need to turn this into more of a SaaS-based business?
So getting into court reporting, I actually started court reporting way back in right out of high school.
Oh, you did?
It was a passion way back then, but family and children took me away from it, from the focus. So after my kids were grown and I had an opportunity, I went back into court reporting, essentially is what I did. So later in life, I went and finished my degree with New York State. And, literally fast forward to today, what happened is I became a freelancer court reporter, bought Milwaukee Court Reporters from the lady that hired me as a court reporter, bought that when she retired, she sold the company to me. But what I found was terrible inefficiency in locating freelance court reporters through my business with Milwaukee Court Reporters.
Okay.
So about 5 years ago, I just started looking into, well, I'll tell you the light bulb moment was I have to give credit to my brother, which I always don't like to do.
It always hurts to give a sibling some credit.
It really hurts. He was out in San Diego, as a matter of fact, and he had just got, his son bought him he went from the flip phone to the smartphone. And he came back to Wisconsin and I took him out for lunch. I picked him up from the airport, went out to lunch, and he was bragging about how he used Uber for, with his new smartphone.
Right. And
it was just a light bulb moment where I thought, it would really be nice if we could find court reporters like that, where you could just go, click, click, click. I need this court reporter that's medically proficient, that's available next Tuesday. And it literally was sitting there with my brother at a lunch table going, you know what, that's what I need to do. I struggle so much. I see the inefficiencies. I see the problems. So the next morning it began. Now, if you'd have asked me 5, even 10 years ago, would I ever be an owner of a tech company? It would have been so far-fetched. It would have not been on my radar at all. But that's how it began.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's just seeing a huge problem and solving a problem with that in a light bulb moment.
That's great. And Uber inspired dozens of businesses that way, right?
Exactly.
There was a common thread for 4 or 5 years about we're going to be the Uber of this, right? I mean, so it did have some great inspiration that way.
Yeah.
So that's how it began. So you'd been doing court reporting for quite some time. What was the, I've heard about the court reporter problem. I've been out of actually working in a law practice for a long time. So I don't, for those listening, because generally our SaaS and software products are those who are serving law firms or lawyers. That's where a lot of legal tech founders come from, the practice. This is different. this is serving lawyers, but in a different way. But tell us a little bit about the problem of finding. My understanding is, as thin as it is that we have a declining number of court reporters in the United States, correct? And so courts need them, lawyers for depositions need them, wide variety of usage, and they're spread very thin, and there's not a lot going through court reporting school now. That's my thin understanding. Tell me a little bit more about the problem.
Yep, you've touched on it quite perfectly. There's part of the reason for the decline is schools have, so to become a court reporter, it's a proficiency thing of speed typing, right?
Right.
It's a very difficult task to overcome on the speed typing. So what happened in the schools is there's not a high graduation rate. So there may be a dropout rate of 70% that don't make it through the 2 years. It only takes 2 years, but those 2 years, you have to get that proficient in speed. And so what happened is the schools don't like that on their big picture where they have this, this venue where they're getting a dropout rate of 70%.
Right.
So a lot of the schools, so a lot of the schools just kind of took that out of the schooling, out of the colleges. So there's been a number of colleges that have gone out on their own and picked up. There's been online classes. Actually, I finished my degree online through New York State.
I didn't know they did that now. That's cool.
Yeah, and then they were doing that back. So I finished in 2008. I graduated in 2008. So even back then, they were already doing remote court reporting. So that's how I finished my degree. But so, yes, there's a shortage of court reporters, and it's a great profession. I mean, if there's anybody out there that's even considering it, it's a great profession.
It's actually a fairly profitable profession.
It's very lucrative. It's very lucrative.
For 2 years of schooling, which
Correct.
Is, as I recall, my law school had a court reporting school attached to it, and it was, I remember for 2 years of school, it's a great trade with a very lucrative, but also very difficult. It's difficult to get to
to get to that stage of that speed. And if you can get to that stage, it's an incredible profession. Some of the highlights, your day is different every day. And when you're even whether you're in the court or whether you're in the deposition world, each case is different, right? So every day when you go to work, you don't know what you're going to hear. It could be a neighbor fighting about a fence, in their backyard, or it can be murder. And so it really does, it changes up a lot. So it keeps you on your toes. But very interesting to listen to. But to get it to today, so I'll just throw out there the fact of the shortage is real. The best part about, if there's a good thing about COVID, one of the best things that happened since COVID is most court reporters, or all court reporters, are certified by their states. So I am certified in the state of Wisconsin. I can work in Wisconsin. Before COVID, I was within a geographical area of where I could physically drive. Since COVID, there was emergency orders put in by the courts where we can now swear people in remotely, which then remote depositions came to be. And, fast forward to today, I can cover the entire state of Wisconsin sitting in my office at home. What that's also done is made it where a lot of court reporters are certifying themselves in multiple states. So we have court reporters on our system now that are certified in they can be California, Texas, New York. So literally sitting in New York and covering a deposition in California if they're so certified. So what that did is open up the pool for law firms to find more court reporters, more available court reporters through our system. It's in that respect, COVID has been a good thing.
Let me ask you one thing there, just because it grabbed me. So the Wisconsin-based reporter who's also now certified in New York, can they charge New York prices when they're working for New York?
They can.
That open up for them?
Yep. So the prices are per the court reporter. They're freelancers. Right. The deposition world. So when court reporters work in the depositions, they are freelancers. They are they are not hired by any law firm. So that's a misconception that a lot of people think, well, why don't you just, the lawyer that hires you, that, you work for a law firm. We don't work for the law firm. We are the third party, third person officers of the court that have no connection with either side of the litigation.
Right.
So that freelancer, that puts you in the freelancer world, that puts you in a position where you charge what your worth is. Now, court reporters can charge more for their services if they're real-time court reporters. They can charge extra for medical. They can charge extra for, there's a whole host of different services that court reporters can choose to or choose not to charge more for. So it really is a market-based and personality-based, or personal skill-based, I should say.
Right. Yeah, I just thought, boy, that with the abilities to do more remote depositions and do that now, if I'm in North Dakota and it's real slow, but I now have a better income because I'm getting stuff out of California and New York where they're overwhelmed and they need more
Correct.
court reporters. That's a pretty nice feature for the reporter.
Correct. Yeah, it's a great feature, and it's really, it's catapulted our system out because of that, because now attorney in California can look for a California certified court reporter, and they may find somebody in another state that's not even, they're certainly not in the town that they live in, or whatever the case may be.
Right. So tell us then how it works. It's a matching service, essentially.
Yep. Yeah,
okay.
Essentially, a court reporter will put their profile on our system. It's, first of all, I'll throw out that it is a free listing of the profile. It's also a free service to the law firm. So a court reporter goes on, puts his or her profile in, and puts in exactly what services they provide. Okay. So again, if medically proficient, I use that example because that one's most that people can relate to. If I'm willing or able to do a doctor deposition, I will have that as my profile. Now, if I chose not to do it,
just for clarification for listeners, when you say medically proficient, is that because of the vernacular, the lexicon that's used in medical? Okay. I figured
it's just terminology is very difficult in the medical field. So some court reporters choose not to do it. Maybe they're not experienced enough. Maybe they're only 2 years in and they're not experienced enough in medical field to jump into a real in-depth case regarding, some kind of malpractice or something. Right. So they can choose to put that on their profile or not. So now the attorney can go in and say, I need, a court reporter next Tuesday I'm going to be deposing a doctor. So I know I want somebody that is proficient in medical terminology, and this is going to be videotaped, and I want it expedited. And by checking the boxes on the law firm side, it matches up with the boxes that fits the profile on the court reporter side. And then what happens in our system is the attorney will see the available court reporters that match that site. So let's say there's 5 court reporters available next Tuesday at 3:00. That's a doctor or that's medically proficient. And then now the attorney can select by price, by years of experience, by certifications, and a 5-star rating by their peers. So now they can draw down again. So first they find who's available, and now they can start comparing. I need, maybe I want somebody that's got 20 years experience. Maybe they charge more, or maybe I want somebody that's, 2 years experience and is a little less, doesn't charge as much. So they're totally into what pricing they want or what selection from there.
Okay, great. And then when I've selected then the court reporter, so it's free for the court reporters to list. It's free for the attorney to use. How do you make your money?
So then after the job is complete, then we retain a percentage of the job itself. So after the job is, the deposition is held, the court reporter uploads the transcript. The attorney has a repository for that transcript or any documents that are in there. And then there's a submission form that the court reporter will fill out. And that is we're very transparent in the system. So the court reporter knows that the minute they submit that job sheet, exactly what they're going to be paid. And I should note that with our system, it is the max pay that anybody can get out there without working directly for themselves, meaning most, I'll call them third-party booking agencies, can take up to 50% of the court reporter's pay.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. With us, it's 5%. So a court reporter registering, it'd be 5% of the invoice, whatever job when they submit the form, is 5% of the invoice when they choose to do their own production. Now, there's a production process of printing, binding the transcript. They can choose that per job, meaning if they want to do their own production, they can, but there's some court reporters out there that don't want to do that. They don't want to print and, they may not have a home office. We actually offer that service for them. That's an additional 15%.
Because that's costly.
Yeah, that's printing, binding, shipping.
Right.
That's the transcript itself.
That's laborious. That's laborious. Yeah. So you have to charge for that. But if they're doing all that on their own, then their only cost for that, they're retaining 95% of the fee.
Correct.
And they're still retaining 80% of the fee, even if you're doing the binding and publishing. Correct. That's still pretty good if you're saying that there are other third parties are. So the idea is to do volume, right? As your business, your monetization is volume. And the more we have, the more we produce. We don't have to charge more than that 5%.
Yep, exactly.
Like it.
Yeah, and I will throw out too that ironically, the third party agencies that I talk about or that do the scheduling now in the industry, when we first launched eCourtReporters, we actually set out to eliminate them. In other words, we don't need this third party booking process because, go direct to the court reporter. You don't need that third party.
Right.
But those third party agencies do a big job for the court for both sides, for both the court reporter and the law firm. They do production. They do a lot of extra services to the law firm. So some law firms still want them. Some court reporters still want to utilize them. And ironically, after we launched about a year and a half, the very same people that we set out to eliminate came and wanted to use our system as well. Because we just made it far easier for them also to find the freelancers that they reach out to and they need to service for their clients.
So they've actually become customers of your system.
They've become customers. We pivoted. We created a whole new section for them. It's a little bit different dynamic than what the law firm. They don't have it's much free stuff as the law firms have. There is a little bit of a additional fee for agencies to utilize us. But again, we made their life easier, so they too have chose to use the process, and we created a system for them to join in. So
that's great. We found that in my day job, we found something similar. We had thought we would eliminate a broker model, but some attorneys still used a broker model for locating experts. Some experts still wanted to use it. We found that we are supplemental, that those two can be supplemented. And then we found that many of those models also wanted to market their services with us.
Yeah.
It's a similar service. Joe Ott over in the Facebook group says, this is awesome. This is a service that really needs to be done. The big court reporter firms completely price gouge plaintiffs' lawyers. This is in Joe's experience. I have on average $1,500 tied up in reporter fees before I get into trial and or settlement stage on the Kanban. Insurance companies can bankroll, but it's a huge disadvantage for the small and new plaintiffs firms.
So we found that solo firms, small firms, they were and they are our initial best customer. And that is because, again, they're cost conscious, right? Because they write the checks out. Some of the bigger firms, they never see a check. The lawyer themselves actually don't see the check. But those solo firms, they write the checks. They see what goes out. And that's correct. There's many agencies that upcharge attorneys. So not only, if we're in a deposition and an attorney says to me, how much is this going to cost? And if I'm hired by an agency, I can't quote them. I have no idea because I can tell you what I would charge, but I have no idea what you're going to get charged.
Right.
With our system,
with the agency, there's a markup on whatever you're charging.
So, yep. And a markup on their end and a pay cut on my end.
Right.
So with eCourtReporters, that exactly when you purchase or when you book a court reporter, exactly the price you're going to get charged. There's no upcharge to the attorney.
So it's price forward. I like that.
Correct. Yep. It's upfront. You will know exactly at the time of booking what your charges are. We do have credit card payments for ease of payment. We accept checks. I also want to let it be known that everybody that goes to our system must be vetted before gaining access. So it's not just something that somebody can just check out. Unless I'll give you an example. Not too long ago, we had a gentleman that was looking for a court reporter, but it was his ex-girlfriend and he wanted to find her. It's like, no.
We don't want to play that game.
You have to be an attorney. You have to be a scheduler. You have to be a court reporter, a legal videographer. You have to be in the world of legal deposition world or court world before you can gain access to the systems.
Which makes sense. Yeah, that's good. And I mean, you don't want trash on your site that's impacting your brand.
Yeah, it's a professional service to both sides. And that's it's a mission of ours to keep it professional.
So Joe Ott says he's signing up. He's glad to see it. And he asks, is it legal in all jurisdictions? Which is a good question.
So great question. So each court reporter is required by law to provide the service within their state. So again, wherever they're certified, that's where they are eligible to work. So if I say I can work in I can't work in California, I'm not certified in California.
Okay.
So you won't find my services in California. But if you come to Wisconsin or are looking in Wisconsin, I can provide services in Wisconsin. So court reporters, when they sign up, that's part of the vetting process, is that they go through a vetting process. Are you really a court reporter in Wisconsin? And do you have a license? And what are your credentials? All that goes through the vetting process. So once they get to that stage or past the vetting process, when an attorney hires them, the attorney knows that that court reporter is legit in whatever area they're hiring them for. Whether it's Texas,
And that actually leads me to a follow-up question on the vetting. You're vetting everybody who's getting involved. So are you checking certifications on the court reporters? They have to submit something like that up front?
Yep. Okay. Yep. So there's the easiest checkpoint is there's a National Court Reporters Association. There's certain requirements to be in the association that you have to be a court reporter to begin with, certified court reporter. Many states have certification process. Many states have their own. California has their own processes, Illinois. So you may some have reciprocity as across states, some don't. So each court reporter, again, is licensed by what they're required by in their states. And if they choose to get a license in another state, they have to meet all the requirements for that state as well. For that state,
right. And it sounds like getting licensed in different states is a good deal for court reporters right now.
Yeah.
Especially working more remotely. All right. So a couple more like founder related. I think you did a great job of describing what you offer, but founder related, you were a non-technical founder. When I say that, you were not a developer.
My biggest pain point.
Okay, which is great. That's what other founders need to hear these things.
Yeah.
So how was that? How did you adjust to that? How did you find the developers that you and learn to trust and know that you were getting good product?
So when I go back to that statement of sitting in lunch with my brother and the next day having this light bulb moment, the first thing I did is reach out to some tech developers on the internet and said, I'm going to work on, I want somebody to develop this for me, right? I was overpromised and underdelivered our first iteration of our system. Mm-hmm. We quickly found out that what was created was not nearly what we needed. Not only for security, there was just a whole host of problems. So we literally went back to the drawing board and recreated a custom built site in 2018. So 2017 is when we launched a overpromised, underdeveloped, went back to the drawing board and created a custom built site and I call it a relaunch, but it was its own launch in 2018. And that's really when we began traction. 2018, how I found them, ironically, my niece is married to a tech developer in San Diego.
Okay.
And I was out there for Christmas and I just started asking him questions because we were going through so many pain points of our initial iteration. And he said, you're not the only one to deal with this. This happens a lot for those that are non-technical. Because I didn't, I went to people and I said, this is what I want.
And you're trusting them without knowing. Right.
Totally. So long story short there, we ended up hiring him to recreate our custom built site. His company is onshore, does all local developers. Our first crack at it was offshore developers. We found problems with language barrier, time zone issues. It was just not a workable site. So we got to, I was thankful that my niece was able to hook me up with her husband, who outstanding company in San Diego. And it's been a dream since. Now, a year ago, they actually were bought out by Accenture. Their company was bought out by Accenture. And so we had an investor in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, that owns a development school, and they are our tech developers now, and they do a great job there. So they're local, Local is a big thing for me. Local meaning even just in the United States, because we had so many problems with our offshore stuff that local became a big deal. And I want to knock on doors if I have an issue. And it's not just a phone call. It might not be just an email.
If I got to get on a plane and go see you.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair. And there's certainly a big push to hire local and buy local anyway these days, right? So there's a big push that way. And I think that's commendable.
Yeah. We've been offered a lot of less expensive options to go offshore, to go different routes. But I think that was also part of our first problem, is that we went with this cheaper version. And like I said, we're dealing with crucial things here. There's litigation, legal issues. People's lives can be on the line for litigation. Transcripts are extremely confidential. There's nothing you can mess with here. So it became real important to make sure it gets done right.
And there's something that most people don't look at when they see a marketplace online. They think that it's very easy. You check something and there is a wide variety of widgets and things taking place in the database on the back end. And this affects that, and this affects that. And it's not a WordPress site, I'm imagining.
So our shell is a WordPress site.
Right.
And then we have an app within that does all the work. And the app within it, yep. The WordPress stuff, I actually learned. I learned how to code in WordPress myself. You call it that. We joke about it, but I actually can go in there and change all the WordPress stuff. I can put videos in and change all pretty stuff that I can do. But I can't touch that app at all. There's just no way. It does a lot. It's probably got huge functionality that people don't understand when they're building a company like this. We've got some more from Joe Ott over here. How did you handle financing? And we are getting to that, Joe. I was going to go that way, but I think it's a good one. Joe's also working on some stuff. In my company, we have a proof product I got through offshore, but now I'm thinking there's no way I can put up $100,000. Did you get a user base first and then try to get an investor? These are the founder questions. This is the community collaboration that I want people to be doing in the Facebook community. Please. Great question. So we were bootstrapped to begin with. We did get to a stage of some traction. I'll call it some traction. It wasn't a lot. But by the time, I'm sure Mr. Ott knows all too well the expense involved in creating, and you as well, creating those apps they don't go by cheap. No. So we are primarily bootstrapped, my co-founder and I. And then after we got a little bit of traction, we started reaching out into the investor world. To be honest with you, we would not have gone to the investor world we're a first to market product. So what we created was not out there. So we were just fine growing our business as was growing our business. About 2 years after we launched, a number of competitors came into our space realizing that, hey, this is a pretty good gig here. We have about 1.5 years, almost 2 year lead on any one of those. And we have a huge database already that nobody else has. Once we realized that other ones were coming into our space, we realized that we better kick it in gear a little bit faster because it is tech. It can be overtaken if we don't continue to move forward. We would have continued growing slower. So we started reaching out into the investor world, and we did pick up an investor right away in Cedar Rapids. And that was our developer. That's what we were looking for. Because again, my co-founder and I are not developers. So we needed that third piece.
Yep.
We're happy to take on another developer. If somebody wants to join our team, we'd like an in-house developer. I'll throw that out there. And we're always looking for, we'd love to have an attorney or somebody in the law field also on our team. If anybody's looking to join a team in that realm, because that's, we always want that perspective from the attorney side, right? We know a lot from Judy. My co-founder Judy is very business savvy. I bring in the court reporters aspect. She brings in the business aspect. And then we have our developers, which we'd like in-house right now. They're a little bit separate. They're investors, right? They're not our own. We would like that investor team person, and we'd also like an investor team or a team member that brings in on the lawyer side, so we can also get all the perspective from the attorneys. We do a lot of surveys, that type of thing with paralegals, attorneys, law firms now. But again, somebody in-house would be nice. So,
right. So you're in. So I guess that would go next to my next question. Are you currently? You've got one investor. You're not currently looking for more investment, or are
we would gladly take more investment.
Okay.
Yeah. So same answer. You know, the faster we grow, the more we stay ahead of the competition, the more we have a lot of expansion plans. So we started with the eCourtReporters as a court reporter and legal videographer service, but we have expansion plans of bringing in process servers, interpreters. I mean, there's a whole host of other legal services that are needed when you do a deposition. And so those will be added into our system. I will also note that, I mean, this doesn't go anything to do with legal tech in the big picture, but our system was actually, when we created it, because I knew my niece's husband, my nephew, and I gave him some insight. One of the things that they did by design is our system can be customizable to any freelance business out there. Mm-hmm. So this actually can be white labeled, changed up on whatever the techies do, and change it into another freelance business. But that being said, that's a side note. Really, our plans are, and from the beginning, where we have a lot of expansion. We started with the court reporters and the legal videographers, but we have expansion to go into process servers, interpreters, and a whole host of other legal services that'll be added.
Yeah,
in.
Kind of focused in that legal vertical.
Mm-hmm. And each one of those costs money, which is where.
yeah, those are all features, additional features to offer. So
exactly.
That's great. But you're right. I mean, if all of those are needed and you can put them in touch more efficiently, then that's awesome. Yeah. Where can you talk about users without telling us specific numbers, but where are you getting, and I'm going to guess that I know this by where most litigation happens, but where are you getting primarily attorneys searching for court reporters?
Yep, great question. So I'll say first that we have representation in 49 of 50 states.
Okay.
The only state we don't have a court reporter or legal videographer approved is North Dakota. So North Dakota,
the one example that I gave earlier.
I know, right?
Yep.
And you're right, because litigation equals population, population equals litigation. So our biggest numbers come in California, Texas, New York. We have a great base right here in the Midwest. This is where we started. So Chicago, Milwaukee. Those are the biggest ones.
Yeah. Florida,
where you'd expect them to be. Yeah.
Where you expect them to be. And funny enough, I knew that North Dakota was like the least popular. I think it's the least populated or close to it, next to Alaska, and almost no litigation. So when I get somebody from North Dakota, I'm like, what? You're practicing in North Dakota?
Right.
So that's why it's my example.
Yeah.
So Joe asks, how did you do your IP, your intellectual property? Did you get a patent on anything? It seems almost superfluous or just for investor value. Whenever it fits into my flow, it's cool to ask. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate that. But how did you do that? Are there patents on what you're doing? Anything like that?
There's not. So it's a custom built site. I can say that much. But when you get into the techie world, I don't know if I can answer the questions directly, other than I know that there's a lot of moving parts that go into the custom built. So here's what I know. I write a lot of checks out to a lot of different pieces within that app.
Right.
So it's not, but it's not like we created its own app. I'll put it that way. I think I'm saying that right. It's pieces of other processes.
It's not necessarily your own original source code. I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's a variety of different pieces that were already in existence put together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It makes sense to me. Does that make sense to you, Joe? Yeah. He says, so some of those are not proprietary. Your custom build is now proprietary in nature, but it's a conglomeration.
Which goes back to the speed of development and continuing on. Like say if we had more investors, we would grow faster, or we can continue on where we're going, which is pay as we go. buy some more tech. Right. Yep. And do some more.
Okay. That's good. And so the litigation throughout the states, let me hear some customer feedback from your court report, because we get a lot of lawyer founders on the show, and we don't always get the other legal professionals. How are your customers responding to this? Are they loving this?
Court reporters love it for a variety of reasons. So our system is based on the true freelancer world, meaning you set your rates, you set your own calendar. So we're not micromanaging them, right? This is your business. This is you. A couple key factors that make it beautiful for the court reporter in mind: they can be found when they want to be found. They cannot be found when they don't want to be found. So what happens now, if you're an attorney and I want to book a court reporter next Tuesday on a doctor dep, the first thing you do, you start calling your list of people, and you call this court reporter and they say, well, when is it? Next Tuesday? Yeah, I'm available. It's a doctor. Yeah, I'm not doing that. I don't do doctor deps. So it's eliminated that, right? The court reporter no longer has to say, you don't even bother looking me up, because you're not going to find me on that doctor dep, because I don't do doctor deps, period. Right. So that profile doesn't even show up. Okay. Also, obviously the pay rate becomes a big issue, where they can get paid their rates without somebody gouging them. Mm-hmm. And then there's also a unique feature that is a search by name feature. So many attorneys get to using certain court reporters that they like. Yeah, they've gotten a great service in the past and they want to use that court reporter again. We're the only system out there that has a search by name feature. So if somebody has used my services in the past and they want to know, is Karen Renee available next Tuesday, they can look for Karen Renee. What that does for me is it eliminates all the competition, right? So if anybody else, if there's 5 or 10 court reporters available next Tuesday in Wisconsin, but they only want Karen Renee, they can just put my name in and I show up, and I don't go against all my other cohorts. Yeah,
which is also good for the user experience from the attorney standpoint. Correct. Like, I don't want to scroll through everybody, because I want to find the person I want to find.
Correct. And they know they've gotten good service in the past, so they're comfortable.
Now, what about this is always an issue in these sort of more open source open source platforms. They know they like Karen Renee. They want to hire her. They go the next time, they just pick up the phone and they call Karen. You're probably not too concerned about that, because Karen's getting other business through your service as well.
So a couple things there. First of all, it's against the terms and conditions that you signed up for. But who reads those, right? Right. So if I'm the court reporter and I do that, first of all, I'm violating the system. So I could risk being kicked off, number one. But the bigger picture and the advantage goes right back to, if you do that, you're right back into the scenario we're in now, which is if I'm typing right now and I'm in deposition and I'm typing right now and somebody wants to book my services and they want to call me, I can't answer the phone. I can't answer an email. You have to wait until 5:00 tonight before I can respond to you. With the eCourtReporters, I can be booked while I'm sitting here typing. I can be in a deposition, and my availability calendar is out there. So if an attorney of mine likes my services, he can go and book my services while I'm in the courthouse or in a deposition typing at the time. So I've eliminated all those phone calls, emails, back and forth, frustration. Are you available? Are you not? Because the attorney might wait until, if they can't get a hold of me, maybe they wait until I respond tonight and they say, I need you next Tuesday, 3:00. And at 9:00 tonight, I answer back in an email, I'm not available. Well, I've just put them in a bind now, because now that tomorrow they're going through the process again of trying to find somebody for next Tuesday. Right. They go on the system, they'll know I'm not available, yes or no, my calendar is available or not next Tuesday. So it's a waste. That wasted time goes away.
Right. Okay. So it's more efficient you expect some people will, right. Some people will do it just out of habit. Attorneys got the contact information, and I'll give that person a call.
The other thing that eliminates there, and just because, and it's more so on the agency side than it is on the attorney side, if they do that, and if the court reporter goes that route, now they've risked their pay cut again. Am I now there goes my 50% of my cut, or 50% of my pay, or the attorney that, yes, they do the,
kind of haggle.
Yeah. Can I, you do this for less with our system. Once they book the court reporter, they agree at the time of booking that that's the price they're paying. So again, it eliminates all that negotiation, all that back and forth. Nobody, it's a fair price. Nobody's getting the will you take less.
And
speech.
those are good objections to deal with. And I'm glad you have answers for that. That's the very specific sales questions. Yeah. And you've obviously dealt with them, and there are benefits to just staying in the system.
Yep.
If you become good friends because you've worked on a dozen cases together, and now we're probably in those situations, they may not come through the system. I get it, but
yeah.
There are a lot of good reasons to stay within a system. And correct. Yeah, that's fantastic.
It also helps with credit card pay. A lot of court reporters don't accept credit cards, obviously, that, on an individual basis on freelance business.
Right.
For our system, they get paid sooner. That kind of thing.
The attorney, there's always they've got the office managers out, so the check won't get cut or the payment won't get sent. So there's a lot of headaches that are avoided just by going through the SaaS product, the SaaS tool, and having those headaches removed. So we're about 40 minutes in. Tell me, you've got the Harleys all over the homepage. You and your co-founder, you guys met riding Harleys or learned to ride together, or how'd that work?
Yeah, so we did. So we both were at an event one day with our own bikes, and Judy tells the story better than I do. She saw that I had a key to a Harley that I was hanging on to, and she said, "I want to talk to that girl because she drives her own." And she did. She came up. That was 20 some years ago now, and we've been great friends ever since. That friendship turned into a great business relationship. I think the Harley thing, it's kind of funny because Judy, like I said, Judy tells the story very well. For me, sometimes I'm almost offended that people want to hear more about our Harleys than they want to hear about my business. It's like, wait a minute. No, I've got this really cool business, but don't you drive a Harley? Yes, but I have this really cool business. So, Judy talks about it way better than I do. But when it comes right down to it, it's kind of puts our personalities out there. We're very strong, independent women. I'm not riding on the back of his bike. I'm driving my own.
I like it.
So, my boyfriend, he's like, oh, whatever, but it's a big deal. It really sets us apart on our personalities and who we are.
I think, every founder you got to show some personality, right?
Yeah.
Or every person has some aspect of I'm a dog lover. I talk about it all the time. I'm an animal lover. I talk about it all the time. People know it. The Harley thing is I'm not just a business person. I'm a person beyond that. I think that's, Joe does have another question. Joe's full of questions tonight. Joe, thanks for finally showing up to the show and asking questions. Do you use a third-party CRM, or do you do communications with your users within your own app?
So again, great question. Judy's better at that, probably going to be better to answer that question than I will be. She's the business gal in all those things. She has a number of pipelines and a number of, like I said, she does all that. What I'll tell you is we do all our own advertising. Judy and I wear a lot of hats. So we do all of our own Facebook, blogs, all of that is us. We don't hire that out. We do our own campaigns weekly. We do personal touches with investors, court reporters, attorneys, paralegals. We have a personal relationship with many of them, and continue, personal emails it's a common thing for us. Again, very transparent and very much one-on-one. So Judy's better at the business aspect and answering the CRM questions than I would be, but that's a big picture of some of that we do.
I guess I'll ask it maybe this way. Well, how can the attorney and the court reporter communicate within the app to each other?
Absolutely. Sorry. Yep. Okay. I misunderstood your question.
No, you didn't misunderstand it. I changed it. You were, but I thought this might answer part of it, is that they can do communications.
Correct.
Probably you have a CRM where you keep other communication, but I just wanted to clarify that.
Yep. So within the app, once the connection is made, there is that's all connection. We strongly suggest that all communication is done within that job assignment. So if it's, job 692, we want all the communication in between, because if an attorney says, hey, I want that expedited, and it's done someplace outside of our portal, and then the court reporter puts in her charges and she puts in expedited charges, but the attorney comes back and says, I didn't want that expedited, because they made a phone call outside of the portal. We have no way of proving that. But if we make that attorney say, I want this expedited, and now the court reporter sees that, now we see that as admins. And when the invoicing goes out, now we can verify. So if there's any dispute about anything, everything is very out front. There's no hidden phone calls, emails. If they start that again, then it kind of takes it out of our hands. So if you do everything within the portal, yes, there's direct communication, exhibits uploads, caption uploads, questions. I use the example of an expedite. The deposition is done today. It wasn't ordered as an expedite originally, but I get home tonight as an attorney and I see, I'd really like that transcript tomorrow. I'm going to have another deposition tomorrow in that case. Go in the portal, Mr. or Miss Court Reporter, I need that transcript tomorrow. Can you provide it for me? And the court reporter responds back, yes, I'll get it to you. I'll ruin my night and get it to you by 10 o'clock tonight.
Is there a surcharge for an expedite on that type of thing?
Most court reporters charge for expedite services for that very reason.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Standard turnaround is 7 to 10 days for most court reporters on a transcript. Anything quicker than that, most of them will put a surcharge on for services. Partly because if you say to me tonight, I need this transcript now, either I have to cancel out my day tomorrow, or, depending on how long the transcript is. If it's 20 pages, no problem. But if it's 400 pages or 300 pages, I'm going to be up all night cleaning up the transcript to make sure that you have it at your desk at 7 o'clock in the morning or something to that effect. So, so there's price. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Well, thank you. So where do people find you, Karen, so that they can, where do they find you online? Tell us all the places to catch it.
So eCourtReporters.com, you'll find our app. Please go there and sign up. It's free for attorneys. You'll find us on LinkedIn. You'll find my personal LinkedIn. You'll find eCourt Reporters on LinkedIn. You'll find us on Twitter. You'll find us on Reddit. You'll find us on Instagram, Facebook. What am I missing?
All over the place.
All over the place.
And is it always eCourt Reporters?
Yes, it just about everything is eCourt Reporters. If you punch in eCourt Reporters, you're going to find us one way or another in any one of those venues. Yeah. Excellent. And Judy is personal email info@eCourtReporters.com. If you want to reach out to me personally, it's Renee@eCourtReporters.com. And if you have a business question, it's J Gerulat, which is JGERULAT @eCourtReporters.com. She's more the business whiz than I am. So.
And Renee is RENEE.
Correct.
Make sure that you get the 2 E's there.
Correct.
Joe, Karen will be able to respond to you. She is a group member, so Joe's punching in a few more questions about Reddit and so forth. So Joe, she is one of our group members. I'll tag her in this conversation.
Find us on YouTube too.
On YouTube as well.
Here's a little tidbit of information for Joe. If he really wants to know a little bit more about internally, Judy, I believe, just posted within the last week an actual booking of a court reporter through a video. So you can actually, you can see the whole thing. Like if you want to book somebody, you can go watch the whole, and the whole video is less than 4 minutes. So go ahead and watch it. Definitely check out the YouTube videos as well.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much. Don't disappear when we stop recording. We'll be back next week with fair claims. We'll be doing online dispute resolution. It's been a while since we've done online dispute resolution. This is not a crypto or blockchain-based online dispute resolution. It's a straight ODR platform, but we'll be back next week with that. Karen, Renee, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And we will talk to you soon. Have a good night, all. Thanks, Joe.